Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of Mark and Mark at the Midday. I'm Mark Weiss. I'm with my cohort, as always, Mark Littell, the closer. And today we have ourselves a special guest, someone who was one of my idols when I grew up as a kid watching baseball, none other than the immortal Freddie Patek. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on your time zone. Welcome to the show, Freddie.
Thanks, Mark. It's a pleasure to be with you guys, and I certainly appreciate the invitation. It's been it's really kind of neat for me. So thank both of you for thinking about me.
Well, let me say this: I'm the guy that's the luckiest here because I was on the mound and I had Freddie Patek behind me at shortstop, and Freddie was with the Royals for 9 years, and Freddie, you were also in '92. You were inducted into the Royals Hall of Fame, and good grief, it looks like you've got 11 years in the American League and 3 in the National League, and you got 14 years. And Freddie Patek's 5'4", and everybody says you can't play baseball, and all of a sudden, you know, you cover more ground than anybody. Matter of fact, Whitey Herzog once said, and he was quoted as saying, Freddie Patek is the best turf player, shortstop that I've seen. And that includes Gary Templeton and Ozzie Smith. And I played with all three of you guys. I was blessed with good shortstops, by the way. So,
yes, you were.
Yeah, we're going to put you on the spot, country, and we're going to ask
Mark,
who was the better of the three.
You needed to be blessed with good shortstops, Mark.
Oh, heck yeah, man. I threw some bullets out there.
Yeah, we got a lot of rockets off of your pitches.
Yeah, that's right. But Freddie, it was and, you know, Freddie's known for a lot of things. I remember Mayberry coming down all the time. Every time Freddie got a hit, a home run, you know, he'd say, oh, my gosh, he's not going to be worth crap for 2 weeks. And so, you know, Big John Mayberry just said there, well, Freddie ain't going to be worth crap for 2 more weeks. I ain't even going to shake his hand. And so, and you know Big John how he is. And then,
oh, yeah.
He's great. Then you go out to the you go back out to the American League and with the Angels, and you hit 3 home runs in one game, and I can't imagine what was going through the guys' minds then, you know, with Freddie, you know, at the end of your career, and all of a sudden you hit 3 home runs. Who were the pitchers on that one? Who were the pitchers on that, Freddie?
I think Dick Drago was one, and I think Steve Rinko was the other, but I don't recall who the third one was. I think we won that game like 22-2 or something. It was it was a great night, no doubt about that. First of all,
hey Freddie,
do what?
Hey Freddie, do you know the only other shortstop to hit 3 home runs in a game?
No, I don't know.
A guy named Ernie Banks.
Really?
That's pretty select company.
There's only 2 shortstops that ever hit 3 home runs in the big league.
That's what the research. What the research tells me.
Yep.
Wow, that's really
pretty
cool. And I played against Ernie Banks, so that's quite an honor because Ernie later moved from short to first when he was with the Cubs.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's right.
My first ball that I hit that night though in Boston was about a foot from going over, and I would have had 4 that game, and then the night before we played in New York in Yankee Stadium, and my last at bat that night in New York, I hit a home run against the Yankees, and then the next night we were playing Boston. So that was a pretty good 2 days for me.
Was that home run versus the Yankees? That home run versus the Yankees, was that a right field porch job, or did you get all of it and crush it to Death Valley?
No, I hit it pretty good to left field. Yeah.
Wow, that's a shot.
That's a lot.
It went pretty far. My first home run I hit was with Pittsburgh in '68, and was off of a guy named Don Wilson who pitched for the Houston Astros.
Yep.
And Pittsburgh had a big clock out there, and it was 4:06, and I hit it over that 4:06 sign pretty good. Yeah.
That was the clock in left center field, right? In old field.
It was right about where Bill Mazeroski hit his home run in '61 against the New York Yankees. That's why I remember that. Yeah.
Did Bill make mention of that to you when you hit it? Because he was on your team at that point.
Yeah. Actually, Mark, I think they were all in shock. They couldn't say anything. They're just sitting. That was my first home run in the big leagues, and they just kind of went, "What in the world just happened? How could that little kid hit that ball that far?"
Well, I don't know if many people know this, but Freddie was born and raised in Seguin, Texas. So everything's big in Texas, but Freddie Patek, to me, even though he was 5'4", I always called him Little Big Man. Matter of fact, I described him in my book as, little. He was the little big man that came into play, and Freddie played a big part in baseball and in everybody's life. Freddie's always a straight shooter. That's the good thing. You could always go bank on him with Freddie. He'd always you wouldn't talk too much. You wouldn't talk much, Freddie, but when you did talk, it meant something. I do remember that. So it's he played a big leadership role. I remember that quite well.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had a few nights where we had some overturned tables and and a lot of stuff going on in the clubhouse after some ball games. But because we weren't very happy either the way we played or we just got blown out and embarrassed, and I didn't like that kind of stuff. I was, Cookie Rojas and we always talked a lot, and when things got bad, we just started to shake things up a little bit. So
well, I remember in '76, and that was a great year because that was our first year to get into the playoffs, and then '77. Which year was it that you and Cookie jumped up into that doggone water tower out there and where the spouts were? Was that '76?
I think that was '76. Our first year that we finally beat Oakland. California beat them that night or that day, and then we went into the fountains. But Steve Vogelar, who is the traveling secretary and public relations president, he saw us going out, and he had to hurry up and get the water turned off. He had to get the electricity turned off because we didn't say anything to him. It could have been two fried guys out there, one myself and Cookie. So yeah, that was a unique experience, something I'll never forget.
The funny thing I thought, you always could read about reading the paper, middle infield fried. So
oh gosh, no.
Yeah.
Literally. So
yeah.
But you've been in some really amazing contests and ball games, and you've seen some great pitching. When you came into the ranks, if you're coming in at 5'4", and pitchers probably were a little wary to throw to you because you got a hard strike zone to hit. Coming in there. And did I don't know, any pitcher ever come by you and say, "Hey man, he'd probably say grow up" or something like that? You just like that little strike zone. I mean, good grief. And then all of a sudden the bat comes out of nowhere and you hit a line drive back at his noggin, because Freddie hit the ball hard. I know that.
Yeah,
for sure. You can get cheated on your swings.
Sam McDowell was pitching for Cleveland, and when I walked up to the plate for the first time to face him, he just kind of threw his glove out in front of him, and how you make the fastball sign, and he didn't even take a sign from the catcher. And the first ball I hit it back to him, and then the next time I came up, and I was really mad. And next time I came up, he did it again, like I'm just throwing fastballs, and I whistled a line drive right past his ear, and then I promptly stole a couple of bases on him. So
that's good.
That was the last time he ever did that. The first and the last, yeah.
And that guy threw hard.
Yeah, Sam had a great arm.
Oh yeah.
That's why they called him Sudden Sam McDowell. He could run it up there with the best guys that I've ever faced.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Hey, Freddie, you started off the career with the Pirates, and obviously you spent a few years kind of sitting behind Gene Alley, who was playing shortstop for them at the time. When you got traded over to the Royals, did you look at it that as like a release, like a get out of jail free card, and like a chance to really get to play every single day, or did you kind of not want to leave the Pirates because they were a team that was really looking to the point where they were going to start winning championships?
Yeah, I wanted to stay with the Pirates. I was really really disappointed when Clemente told me when I was in Puerto Rico playing winter ball. He was my manager. He's the one that told me I got traded from Pittsburgh to Kansas City. But I was playing a lot, Mark. Gene Alley had a bad arm, and he really couldn't throw. Back then, they didn't have the medical means to figure out. He probably had a torn rotator cuff. But I played quite a bit for the 3 years I was there. so that worked out. But it worked out good for me because I got, I came here and had a good career here in Kansas City. And, we played, during the 70s, we had some great ball clubs that, won our division. So it worked out well. But I missed the World Series with the Pirates in 71, the year I got traded to Kansas City, and they won the World Series. Right. But I played with a lot of great players there, Clemente and Stargell and Manny Sanguin and Richie Hebner. I mean, we had a lot of. They used to call us the Pittsburgh Lumber Company because, we could flat hit. And Matty Alou, who was the leadoff hitter, he'd get 230, 240 hits every year. So we used to tease him on the bus going to the ballpark. We'd always say, Matty, you already got 3 hits. You don't need to get dressed. So we kind of had a running little thing with him. He was amazing. He had a big old heavy bat, a U1, and choked it up about 4 or 5 inches. And he'd just, if the ball was up and away, he'd just hit a line drive right down the left field line. He was a right-handed hitter. He had probably as good a bat control as I've ever seen, along with a guy named Rod Carew. So he could hit.
That's pretty good company.
Well, one thing I remember, Freddie, I remember when I got sent over to the National League. One of my first closing experiences was with Pittsburgh, and it was in Pittsburgh. And I come in there in the 9th inning, and I'm sitting over there peeking in their dugout on the first base side, and every once in a while when getting the ball back, and you got 3 humongous black guys coming out of the dugout. I mean, you got one coming out of the dugout right now is Bill Robinson. Then you got one in the front named Dave Parker. Then you got Willie Stargell swinging an 8-pound sledge on the on deck circle. And I said, "Oh my gosh, what in the hell have I got myself into here?"
That's flag. That's pretty scary to face those 3 guys in a row. right off the bat. Hey, close this game out. Oh, sure. They're swinging sledgehammers and going to Sister Sledge music. Well, I tell you what, you had a lot of success too, Mark. I mean, you when you came over here to Kansas City, you took on that role as being a closer, and you did a great job, really. The one blemish you have on your resume is that you gave up that home run to Chris.
We're not talking about that here.
now I gotta go to see my psychiatrist again. Anyway,
I trained. You know what I remember about that, Mark?
Extra special call.
What's that?
Well, I remember when that took place that night, and they were throwing stuff. You remember out of the right field bleachers.
10-minute delay.
Yeah, and we turned around and we were watching, and in my mind, I wanted to go up and tell you, say, Mark, stay loose with Buck, just keep throwing.
Yeah,
and,
right.
That still kind of haunts me to this day because that's something that I knew I should have done, and I didn't do it. And I think that delay was, 5-6 minutes long?
It was quite a while.
I think it was like a 10-minute delay because of all.
No, it was 7-minute delay. And I was warming up, and when I saw the outfielders' numbers to my backs, that's when I stopped throwing. And I said, I knew something was rowdy going on, but then when I saw everybody just standing there with their numbers, and all I was looking at the numbers, they were throwing the batteries, the whiskey bottles, anything they could get a hold of. And
they got pretty rowdy.
But I motioned Buck out to the mound, and I said, "Hey, let's get the hell off the mound." I said, let's get the hell out of here. And he said, "No, they're getting it. And so, I don't know that. I didn't give up a 1 home run the whole dang year, and then that was the furthest thing from my mind. And all of a sudden, first pitch, it's tied. George tied it up in the 9th, and all of a sudden we're still in the game, and the ball goes out about 2 feet. And, all hell breaks loose, and then you're set. When I come off the mound, I see you on the bench with your head between your knees, and we all wanted to go to the World Series, and that's my deal, because I get asked that, Freddie, at least since the book's come out. I'm asked. Usually it was 2 times. Now it's 3 to 4 times a week. So,
yeah.
Are you the guy that gave up that home run? Yeah, I'm the guy.
Yeah, I played.
Freddie, I never asked him about it because I want to keep my friendship with him.
Yeah. Well, I played in 4 divisional championships and never made it to the World Series. So that's. Yeah. But you learn a lot of good lessons in life. Through the hard times and defeats, and so. When I look back at that now, I felt like I was privileged to be in that position so many times, and even though I never got to the World Series, which is my, that's your boyhood dream when you're playing in the backyard, and for a guy like myself who was not very tall and never really considered to be, a major league prospect, it worked out great for me, because I was one of the last guys drafted way back in '66. My name would have probably been on the back page in the newspaper as the last guy drafted. It was, so I came a long ways from nowhere, and I first got to Pittsburgh. There was 2 guys named Tommy and Jimmy O'Toole who were the scouting department and the minor league directors. And when they picked me up off the plane, they looked at the list that this guy, Bob Zuck, who is a scout, that signed me. And he put on that list that I was 5'8", 165 pounds. And here I am. I'm getting off the plane. I'm 5'4", weighing 135 pounds, soaking wet. And they just looked at each other. And they shook their head, and they said, that damn Bob Zuck did it to us again. So and we've always had that laugh.
Did you get Freddie? I'm sure probably sometimes they said, "Who's the bad boy?" Right? Or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's I got that mark a lot when I first went into the net. When I got called up with Pittsburgh, I played my first game in Chavez Ravine against the Dodgers, and Claude Olstein was pitching, and Maury Wills was on our team at that time. He was playing third base for Pittsburgh, and they didn't have a uniform for me. You remember, Mark? You remember Gene Michaels, who played for the Yankees?
Yeah.
That's the uniform they gave me.
Oh, really? God, he was 6'4".
And Gino was about 6'3", 6'4".
6'4", yeah.
Yeah, and Maury Wills, he got a hold of needle and thread, and he sewed my uniform up for me to where it looked halfway decent. He said, "You can't go out there looking like that in that uniform." And
that's great.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah. Yeah, and, stuff like that happened all the time. Even during that series, I'd go out to the ballpark with Willie Stargell and Clemente and a bunch of guys, and you know how you always had to go through the security gate. Well, when I got to the security gate, the guy at the gate said, "Well, who is that guy?" And Willie Stargell just turned around and looked at me and said, "I don't know who he is. He's not with us." So I stood outside for about an hour or so waiting for the bus to show up so I could get.
You could have at least said "Bat Boy," right?
Yeah. I got that kind of stuff all the time. They don't. I get on an elevator. They say, "Midge, what floor are you on?" I say, "Well, I'm on 30," and they said, "Well, you can't push the buttons that high." So they'd always tease me about that as well.
I can see Stargell doing that. He was always a character.
Oh yeah, Willie was a jewel. I loved Willie a lot.
And what about Roberto? You played, I guess, for Roberto. Knew Roberto quite well. Played with him. What was unique about Roberto to Freddie Patek?
Probably the best right fielder I ever played with. Had a great arm. I remember one day in Old Forbes Field, we were playing in Philadelphia, and there was a guy on second base, Mark, and in Old Forbes Field, there was a big high wall and a big screen fence that went way up high, and it was kind of a weird shape going from right to left center, or right center. And I remember he ran on a ball that was hit hard. He was full tilt running towards the wall. He caught the ball, and stopped about a foot from the wall, and he threw the ball on the line over my head and threw the guy out at third base, and I went, oh, my word, you got to be kidding me. I still remember that. I see that all the time. I just kind of went, that's just unbelievable.
When you saw him make that throw in the 71 World Series, I think it was to get Frank Robinson at third base, probably a similar play, and the rest of the country was wowed like they had never seen it before. When you saw it, did you say, yeah, that's old hat, you know he could do that?
Well, it was, I tell you what, it was amazing. It's still hard for me to believe that he could do that. He could do those things the way that he did. He was a great base runner. He always had that tradition to where when he rounded first base, he would slide and then go back or just keep going. But he all around he was a great athlete and really a nice man. When we were there and I was married, he would always talk to my wife and stop and say hi after the game. How are you doing? What can I do anything for you? He was a class act. There's no doubt about it.
When you first walked into that locker room and you saw him, Stargell, Clendenim, Sanguin, all of these big back guys who were real stars, were you a little intimidated, or were you like, I belong here?
No, you know what? I don't really think I thought anything, Mark. I think I wasn't scared, but I knew I was ready to play. But yeah, I was awed. I was awed in, to a degree. I wasn't overwhelmed, but I just kind of went, wow. And what I thought was, man, you better play good if you're up here.
Let me tell you a good story about Pittsburgh, and I found this out real quick. If you walked anybody on Pittsburgh teams, you were pretty bad. I mean, those guys come up to swing. You couldn't walk any of those guys.
Well, they call them the Pittsburgh Lumber Company.
Oh yeah,
they could hit. I mean, they had Al Oliver, they had Hebner and Davy Cash. I mean, all those guys were great hitters. I mean, it just it was amazing.
What size bat did Clemente use? They were called the Lumber Company. But what size bat did Clemente use? Because I know he had a long bat, didn't he? Like 36 inches, wasn't it?
Yeah, he had a 36-inch bat.
That's unreal.
I don't think he was a U2, but it was something similar to that. But he was notorious for being a bad ball hitter. And in the playoffs the first year against Cincinnati, we were in Cincinnati, and he was at the plate, and I was on second base. And the pitcher threw him a strike right down the middle of the plate, about belt high. Umpire called it a strike, which it was, and Robbie stood there and argued with him over that call. I thought to myself, Robbie, you should have mashed that pitch. But I still see that. So, yeah, that was. I got a lot of good memories from Robbie because he went down and he was on the DL for about 3 weeks, and I had played some center field in the minor leagues, and Bill Verdon, who was one of the coaches with Pittsburgh. When Robbie went down, he said, which one of you guys can play the outfield? So I raised my hand, and I played right field in Pittsburgh for about 3 weeks while Clemente was on the DL.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Who's your manager then, Freddie? Who's your manager? I thought it was Burton. Oh, it's Murtaugh.
Was it Danny Murtaugh?
Yeah, Murtaugh came Larry DeHaven was actually my first manager in Pittsburgh, and then Danny Murtaugh, I think, came the second year, the second and the third year I was there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he was very well respected manager. Danny was a good, he was a really, really good baseball mind. He knew what was going on all the time. So, but with that team, it wasn't really too hard to write up a lineup because you had guys that just, everybody in that lineup could hit.
I could think of two guys from that Pirate era that kind of get overlooked when it comes to the Hall of Fame, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. One was Danny Murtaugh as a manager, and the other was Al Oliver as a player and especially as a hitter.
Yeah, Al Oliver belongs in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt in my mind, and so does Danny Murtaugh. And why Al has never been, selected by the committee or whatever. That guy could just flat hit. Period. He had 2,800 hits or something in his career. Mm-hmm. It was a lot.
Yep.
It was a lot. And the guy was a perennial 300 hitter his whole career. And I just never understood how he was never selected to the Hall of Fame. I wish they would revisit that and take a look at it.
I hope so too. The other question I was going to ask you is, what was it like playing with Bill Mazeroski? Was he as great at pivoting and turning that double play as everyone said he was?
Yeah, he was. I'm very fortunate to play with Mazeroski and Cookie Rojas and Frank White. But Mazeroski, when I was playing short, we'd get a double play ball or something, and I was kind of hesitant a little bit because I wanted to give him the perfect throw. And he had real big, thick hands, and he always caught the ball on a double play off his heel of his hand, and it just transferred from his But he finally told me. He said, "Hey kid," he said, "just throw me the ball anywhere you want to." He said, "I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it." And after he said that, then everything smoothed out, and we were both on the same page. But he was tremendous, and
I know.
He was real thick leg, but guys, when they tried to slide into him at second base, you couldn't move him. I mean, you just couldn't move him off the bag. Once he planted his feet and he was solid, nothing bothered him. Nothing bothered him.
I heard if somebody slid into Bill Mazeroski on occasion the really wrong way to really try to upend him and hurt him, I had heard that he threw a few balls at the old noggin when they were even going down.
Oh, yeah. I did that a few times myself, Mark.
Real baseball.
Oh, yeah. I did that one day in Texas. Toby Hare was a shortstop, and it was a double play ball early in the game. And he came to second base, and he didn't slide. Yeah. I ended up throwing the ball in the seats in Texas. And I told him then, I said, if you ever do that again, I said, I'm going to hit you right between the eyeballs. And it was, what was so neat and so good about that is it happened that same game. We got a ground ball to Cookie. He came to me, and Toby was coming in, and I dropped all the way down underneath, and I hit him right between the eyeballs underneath his helmet, and he's laying on the ground. And I walked up to him, and I got over him, and he said, "I know, Fred. I know you told me." That was.
I'll tell you something, Freddie, I remember about Texas is that we got one of the biggest fights ever in Texas one night.
Oh, my. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that was with Darryl Porter and Willie Horton and Bump Wills. That thing went on for about 10, 15 minutes. It was. What I remember about that was the fight was going on, and all of a sudden somebody grabbed me from the back of my jersey, and they're pulling me towards the pitching mound. And I turned to look, and when I got on the mound, there was Billy Martin standing there holding me by the jersey, saying, "Fred, you don't want to get in the middle of that, Fred." So I just stood there with him, and we watched.
I remember Gaylord was on that team, and Perry, and then who was it? I was trying to. Gaylord went on the team, but somebody was watching the fight, and they were talking about it. But I think it might have been the second longest fight in the history of baseball.
Oh, it went on forever.
It went on forever and ever. And if I'm not mistaken, 3 guys on each team got put on the disabled list that night. Here we had to call AAA, and that year in 1977, we won 102 ball games, Freddie.
Yes.
And we still had people going down, and we could still perform and win. And
what was good about that team, Mark, was, even if we were like 5, 6, 7 games out at the All-Star break, what I remember very vividly is that when we walked into the clubhouse, it was like somebody turned on the light switch, and we all kind of collectively said, "Okay, it's time to go," and we did. I mean, we just started winning ridiculous. We won 17 games in a row or 17-1 or whatever it was.
It was pretty far out there. We won a whole lot of games in a row.
Yeah.
And then
I remember Texas came to Kansas City for a 4-game series, and they were 4 games behind us. They were popping off pretty good in the Dallas papers. How when they came to Kansas City, they were going to after the series they were going to be tied with us.
Right.
And we played that 4-game series, and I hit a triple down in the right field corner, and drove in Frank, who had hit a triple before that, and we won all 4 games. And what we told them was, we gave them that nah thing, and told them, said, we'll see you guys next year. And he said, it's over for you guys.
Yeah, that was the big deal, the nah song that they used to pull on.
There in Chicago.
Yeah, there in Chicago is right. And then the one thing I remember quite well in 77, because we had basically risen to the occasion to dislodge Oakland in 76. Now that we were a pretty good ball club, we started off slow in 77. I think we fell a couple of games behind 500 when we had like 12, 15 games in the season. And I remember we had a players meeting, and you were a big part of that meeting. I remember about, hey, let's get this going and just start kicking some butt. And, this is ridiculous what's going on. So all of a sudden we started reeling it off. We got a little serious and we got a little bit more focused, and we just said, okay, let's have some fun then. Here we go. And
I remember that because we were a good team, and we just, I know that the feeling is that when we came to the ballpark, we felt like nobody was going to beat us. I mean, I remember standing at the cage in Cleveland talking to Toby Hare and some of those guys during batting practice, and you'd walk away from there after you talked to them because they were always complaining about the conditions in Cleveland, and you're just going, if we keep this game close through 7 innings, we're going to beat these guys. And but that's the way we felt about anybody, even the Yankees. We were never intimidated by anybody. Really, we knew we were a good ball club. Whitey put all the guys together. He was a great manager and tactician of putting guys together, where their abilities are and fit and putting those pieces together. And that's what made us click so well.
We had pretty much a no-name pitching staff in 76, and we came out with, Leonard and Larry Gura, and we had a lot of guys just put that thing together.
Doug Bird.
Yeah, we had Splittorf, and you had Buzz.
Yep.
I think back then, I'm not sure, I'm trying to remember. I think back then we still had 4-man rotations.
Yeah.
Was Busby injured then, or was he in the rotation in 76?
He was injured in 76, but Buzz was the very first true rotator cuff surgery. That was the real one. Matter of fact, they cut his arm from the bottom to the top of the armpit all the way around. Looked like they took the arm off and put it back on. It's unreal.
Because he was dominant before that.
Oh, I tell you what, I played in both of his no-hitters, and the way, the stuff that he had and the competitiveness that he showed on the mound, I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd have thrown a couple, 2 or 3 more. He was capable of throwing several more no-hitters, I know that. He was really, really good.
Well, he was a true athlete. He was a true pitcher. He could play any sport, Buzz. He was a real athlete. No doubt about it.
Fred, I know sometimes people get tired of being asked the same questions. You've probably been asked this one a million times, but our listeners probably want to hear about it, so I'm going to ask. Everyone always remembers the iconic photo or the video during the 77 playoffs after the Yankees had won and you were in the dugout. Does it bug you when people bring it up and talk about it? Because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I was crying too, because I was rooting on you guys. I mean, give us a feel of that moment.
Well, I can tell you that what led up to it, I remember that I think I'm not sure who was on, but I remember looking up, and Sparky Lyle was on the mound, and I knew all I was going to get was sliders, and I looked over down third baseline, and I saw Nettles move over real close to the bag, and I hit a P down to him, and all I remember was running to first base thinking, you know, if you're going to blow your legs out, blow them out right now. And it was pretty much a bang bang play, and then it was all over. And then, you know, reality set in because I was in the dugout. I'm thinking, you know, I may never get this chance again in my life, and it was a pretty disappointing, disheartening moment, you know, because we played well, and you hit a ball that good. If that ball gets by him, you know, we score a run. I'm on second and third, and I think George is coming up behind me. So, you know, I liked our chances, but that's the thing that I remember. And it was because I thought that's exactly what I thought to myself was, you know, I may never get this far. We may never get this far again as a team. So, but you know, you learn. But like I said, you do learn a lot of good lessons from defeats, you know, in your life. So, you know, and now I can look back at that, you know, and say, well, you know, that even though we got beat, it was still a special moment that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I think most people think of it as an iconic moment too. I mean, sometimes you want to be on the positive side of an iconic moment, but when you're part of an iconic baseball moment, you know, you go down in history forever and ever. I think one of the best stories that I heard about you was about a month or two ago. We interviewed UL Washington, and we talked to him about, you know, him joining the team, and you know, you had the shortstop job at that point, and he kind of looked to be the heir apparent. He said you were nothing more than the most professional and kind person toward him when he came up, and I just thought about how amazing that was, and just told me what kind of great person you are.
Well, I appreciate that. UL was, you know, he was young and he needed to learn, and you know, I never felt intimidated, but I did, you know, I always wanted to help people and still do, and I was ready, you know, I was going to give him all the knowledge that I had to help him when he was ready, you know, when he was going to start playing when I got a little older, but yeah, I saw UL with Mark about a couple of months ago at an autograph session, and he had I remember he had the big World Series ring on his finger, and I didn't because I went to I went to the Angels that year. So, but yeah, I liked UL a lot. He's a neat young man.
You didn't have.
He's a great guy though.
You didn't have that toothpick in though at the time.
I thought he was born with the toothpick.
Yeah, really. Hey, Mark, are we ready to close this thing?
Yeah, you know what? I just want to say thanks to Freddie because, like I said, growing up, you know, Freddie was my baseball idol, and you know, we could get Freddie back on the show and we'll talk about some of that stuff later. But I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to throw it over to the closer because he closes it out, and once he does, we're good to go.
Okay, well, Mark, thank you.
Here we go. I'm going to head to the mound, and we're going to throw P's at the knees, no pies in the eyes, no wall balls, and you'll be just fine. And we're awful glad to have had Freddie Patek, such a great guy and a great ball player, on our show. Thanks, Freddie.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Thank you, Freddie.